Recorded live from the secret underground lair of Crimson Cowl Comics and Collectibles, this is the Crimson Cowl Comic Club Podcast.
The following issues may contain spoilers. Nothing beats a clean and fresh fishbowl. I'm Anthony.
Kirby.
I'm Katie.
And I'm Jim.
Welcome to issue number 301 of the Crimson Cowl Comic Club Podcast. Every time we record, we talk about comic books. On this week's show, we have the penultimate issue of our club discussion for Once Upon a Time at the End of the World with issue number 14. Then we're going to jump over to the weekly reviews. That's where we go back and forth and we talk about those books that we've been reading. They could be new, they could be old, they could be anything in between, but we're going to talk about them there. Then, over in the news segment, we're going to do our previews preview, part 1 of 2. This episode, we're going to cover the Marvel and DC Comics May previews for July 2024 and beyond. On our next recorded episode, we'll dive into the big catalog for the independent publishers, merchandise, apparel, collectibles, all that fun stuff. But we're going to cover Marvel and DC, kind of go through what books we're excited to pre-order coming out later this summer. So that is going to be the lineup for the show, and let's jump right into it with the club discussion. It's time to talk about the issue, the penultimate issue, if you will, of Once Upon a Time at the End of the World with issue number 14. And the synopsis says, in the penultimate issue of the epic 3-book post-apocalyptic adventure, Seo and Mezzi must journey back to Golganuza in a race against the Ravagers. In the ruins of the wasteland, as time is running out, the two must put aside their differences as they grieve past losses and fight for one last sliver of hope for the united world. Ruined world, rather. Two opposite words. There we go. I'm just holding out hope for what's going to happen in this book. This comic is done by Jason Aaron, Nick Dragotta, Rico Renzi, Alexandre Tefenki, Lee Loridge, Leila Del Duca, Tamara Bonvillain, and Anne World Design. Might be the best rattling off of this creative team that I've done, and just in time for this series to end next month. So here we go. Let's talk about this book. Myself, Jim, and Katie have read it. Giving a quick overview, we have a lot of that apocalyptic battle that we kind of ended on with the last issue. We have Old Mace and Old Mezzi that are kind of at each other's throats, but now they're coming together to fight off this horde of like monsters and soldiers and just, all these creatures that are attacking them. We take a trip back and forth, basically kind of a trippy view in the past where our characters, we see them in their younger state and kind of the middle state where they're kind of really falling in love and setting up Golganuza. So we dip in and out of all of that stuff and kind of learn what all that means. We dip back more into this massacre, which the majority of the issue takes place. And maybe we end on some glimmer of hope. We'll find out as we dive into the story. That is a quick overview. Let's jump over to Katie first. Your thoughts on Once Upon a Time at the End of the World, issue number 14.
Okay, so my thoughts are kind of like right in the middle on this, where I'm like, I didn't love this, but I didn't not like it. It does a flashback, which I thought gave us a lot of the answers to these characters and their relationship and why it ended up the way that it did. I think that maybe might have been better served, at least for the single issues, playing out a little bit sooner in the story. If you're reading it by trade, it probably makes a lot more sense. But I was glad that we still got to get those answers regardless. What else? We still don't really know what the mist is. We thought we knew, and now they're like, no, not really. So that I hope they'll figure that out in the last issue, because that was a decision, I guess, that was made. What else? So there's obviously, it's a lot of fighting, and like Mace and Mezzi their relationship is like super toxic. Like they just are not really great at expressing themselves. It seems like they hate but love each other but hate each other. But we do get a really cool battle scene, and um and then at the end we get kind of a really big reveal that something else is going on, that it looks like, have they maybe found this new world that they've been searching for this whole time? And hopefully they'll answer that in the last book. And maybe the engine was meant for something else. We thought it was meant for destruction. Maybe it's meant for creation. I am ready for this series to wrap up and get whatever conclusion we're going to get. I really do like the concept of it. It's definitely really creative. And I hope these characters, while they're not going to get a happy ending, I hope they find some peace. And yeah, that's about where I'm at with this series. I'd say it's a pretty solid penultimate issue, and I'm excited to hear what everyone else thinks.
Excellent. Let's jump over to Jim. Thoughts on this issue?
Again, there was some really clever writing in here, I thought, especially in the first few pages. He's just rattling off this interesting blend of biomedical and geophysical stuff, like explaining what is happening to the world through this earth, this rift in the earth, and explaining it like a weird disease and mechanism that's happening. And yeah, so that was really interesting. And this is not something that is specific to this issue, but it specifically struck me in this issue is the coloring. It's been good coloring, great coloring throughout this issue. This issue had kind of like a theme where it was very easily detected to separate the different flashback scenes. And then the flashback scenes also were probably the most well-balanced and least chaotic. So it was, even though you were going from period to period, you were able to follow what the story was going for in between those. Where in some previous issues, it was like, what's jumping? Why are they jumping? What's going on? You know, when these jumps, while they were still there, enhanced this whole book rather than just made it a little bit chaotic. The action was awesome in this book. There were like 3 or 4 great full page spreads in this book, where and there's one of them, I think it is the second to last one, where it shows Mace and Mezzy in all 3 time periods. That was just great, you know, and so them as kids, them as young adults, and then the old, yeah, there Anthony has it on screen for those of you can see. That was an awesome page, you know, I love that one. So yeah, like I said, it was basically these full page panels that, you know, really enhanced the colorist for me. So it actually made me go and look who is the colorist, because that's not necessarily something I usually do. So
we have Lee Loridge as the colorist for this, and then Tamra Bonvillain as well, and Rico Renzi. So those are the 3 that had contributed to.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was, and well, overall, I'm glad to see things coming to an end. Yes, I do think this whole series probably could have been cut down by 3 to 5 issues and told the same story. They did meander a little bit throughout, you know, but I am excited to see how they bring things to a conclusion. And like Katie mentioned, I don't think they're necessarily going to get a happy ending out of here, but I do think we will be able to resolve issues from what they've left us with right now.
Good. Yeah, and the series originally was meant to be an X amount of issues, and then they extended it. So yeah, it seems like free them adding more, you probably would have gotten what you were kind of looking for there. And I don't know if that's just one of those things where because if it was widely successful, which I'm sure it probably is, a great creative team, I'm sure it would just be one of those things being like, all right, let's go to 50, let's go to 100, let's make this The Walking Dead or something. Because it definitely has enough like lore behind it where they can really, just keep exploring these characters and stuff. But I think it maybe just got to that point being like, okay, it's just successful enough, we need to add one extra part. And maybe it was kind of like late in the game that Jason Aaron came up with something and just like, okay, I just had a revelation and all right, I need an extra 5 issues or whatever the heck. And yeah. Talking about this issue here, yeah, I agree with all those splash pages and just seeing the distinction between the flashbacks. And my favorite is this probably about halfway through the book of seeing different Mason Mezzi versions here where they're having dialogue together, but they're having them from different times in their relationship. And the dialogue is basically both of them kind of telling the other one like the moment that they kind of thought it was falling apart for them for the relationship. Mace is talking about that this was as simple as not having like I think it was a good night. Yeah, by her not saying good night to him anymore, and like something as like little as that started to kind of chip away at him. And she had a similar thing where there was just one thing that kind of really set her off to kind of recognize that they were kind of falling apart is when he would uh, the look that he gave her that she felt like he was looking at a monster, like that she was being looked at and perceived as a monster like throughout these things. And they just do a really good job of like this dialogue. It got to the point where I just ended up reading one person's dialogue, the other all of their dialogue separate just to get their complete thoughts. But I think it does go back and forth pretty well, even though it's kind of being told in different times like that. But yeah, I thought that was very very well done and an excellent work of the panels and dialogues and just simple facial expressions. There's might be some of the most inactive pages of the book when it comes to just looking at how gory and bloody and action packed and dangerous all the other ones are. But I think it fully did its job here with delivering these very important messages to kind of talk about the where their relationship started to crumble from their point of views. Um, but yeah, I tripled down on what you guys were saying with mentioning about the not a happy ending, but just kind of having coming to peace and having that glimmer of hope. And I think overall this issue did a good job of being a penultimate issue. It really was amping it up, and the ending page is really giving you just be like, okay, this now we're just jumping into this one more issue. And I didn't look to see like when we pre-ordered it if it's any larger than normal. Maybe it'll be like 3 arcs size. It'll be what? I didn't know I was paying $20 for the last issue. They snuck it in there anyways without us knowing.
I have an idea.
Yeah.
So, now that we're almost to the end of the series, I'm realizing this is a reverse of the story of the Garden of Eden. So they're going from a wasteland to a garden. They're going from, having knowledge of the world and, what you could describe as sin to looking towards peace as an absence of sin. And I feel like I kind of want to like look at the whole series again through that idea of trying to get back to the garden. And there's several references to the Old Testament in here, so I am a little mad at myself that I just now realized it. But I think really that last page made it clear to me that it could be viewed through this lens as a reverse Garden of Eden story. What do you think?
Jim, any thoughts on it?
Interesting. So they go from Paradise Lost to a paradise that they created, which failed, and then end up in the Paradise Found.
Yeah.
See,
Interesting. Yeah.
And I thought you were just referring to Eden in Wisconsin, and then but
Yeah, they have the pizza place there.
Well, that's paradise, right?
yeah, there's I have an aunt over there. She's got a garden in her back. I
Yeah, it's a
misinterpreted.
nice little town.
Um, yeah. Well, I guess we'll find out, and got some time there if you wanted to, take a glimpse through and kind of evaluate this series up until this last issue because we have one more left. So yeah, if there's any other closing thoughts at all, are we good? Think we're good?
I think that'll do it for this one.
Okay, so there we go. That's going to do it for issue number 14 of Once Upon a Time at the End of the World. And we'll return with issue number 15, the final one. And we'll see if we get Kirby back on board. He's testing the waters, see if he's going to come back for the finale. But we'll be discussing it on this very show in a later episode. And in our next recorded episode, we are planning for Deadpool versus Wolverine World War III, #1. I believe that's the full title, no other subtitles or anything. So yeah, we're expecting to be covering that one. We have the upcoming one shot for Uncle Scrooge and the Infinity Coin. I think that was the title of it. And then we'll find out if there's any more possible club discussions as we dive into the previews a little later on in the show. But in order to get those previews, we have to get to the weekly reviews first. So let's jump over there. Welcome to the weekly reviews. I'm going to kick it off with a very much anticipated book, the very first graphic novel of a series of graphic novels from Dr. Seuss. This is the Dr. Seuss graphic novel, Cat Out of Water, a Cat in the Hat story. Discover Dr. Seuss's whimsical world like never before in this colorful graphic novel companion to The Cat in the Hat. It's a normal day with normal chores for Sally and her brother, until everything turns topsy-turvy when the Cat in the Hat arrives. With a whirlwind of fun and the hilarious but chaotic antics of Thing 1 and Thing 2, the day promises to be anything but boring. Yet Sally's wise pet, the fish, warns them about letting the cat stay. The question looms, can they wrap up their task before their parents return, or will the cat's zany escapades throw them off course? With brand new illustrations and easy to follow paneled storytelling, this graphic novel is an excellent bridge for kids transitioning to chapter books. This is done by Art Baltazar, the famous cartoonist himself. So this was a huge project for Art that he got to kick off the first ever graphic novels for Dr. Seuss with this Cat in the Hat book. There was a release party event at beautiful downtown Skokie shop, Oh Yeah Comics, as well as C2E2 with an early release the week prior. I had the pleasure of running Art and Franco's booth for a little while where they jumped over to some signings, and I got to actually hand sell several of these copies before the street date because they were exclusive early release at C2E2, and then a week later got to do that a little more and hang out with the crew and the Cat in the Hat himself. But more on that after this review. I'll touch on that. So reading this book here, I would say I would have, like, going into it, I've definitely, grew up with Dr. Seuss and the chapter books and this and that and the animated specials and all of that kind of stuff, but never had like a deep, rich, like, love of it where, it's in my collection. I revisit it. I don't have that kind of attachment to it, but I definitely respect it for the impact it has on storytelling for children. And I was more than excited to see that there was going to be a graphic novel that Art was going to be kicking off with the Cat in the Hat. So this book is a lot of fun. The synopsis kind of, really sets up the vibe of it, but we see Art Baltazar's style as we know it from Oh Yeah Comics and Tiny Titans and all of the comics that he does. And we have the kids there, we have the fish, and they hear a knock at the door. And that's when the fish is kind of warning them, just being like, no, don't answer it, don't answer it. It's the cat. He wants to come in, he wants to play. And we have an awesome title page and seeing the depiction of how Art Baltazar draws the Cat in the Hat, which is just, he just has a way with kind of making these established characters his own and his style, and it still fits. It's recognizable as his, but it's still recognizable as the character, and seems very natural fit for him to be working on, these kind of characters. And yeah, so the Cat in the Hat's getting in there, and he's constantly just wanting to have fun. He has this idea that he wants a bigger fishbowl to play around in, and in order to make a bigger fishbowl, he does have the companion help of Thing One and Thing Two, as they kind of go around the house and try to find their best way of creating a big fishbowl within the house. I'll let some people at home figure out what that means, and you can pick up your own copy today and read it for yourself. But I think that's all I'm really gonna, tease from that setup there. Like I said, the synopsis was pretty big there, kind of giving you an idea. More so, just kind of talking about, just how much I enjoyed this. I think it's a great companion piece to the Cat in the Hat books. It said it was a great transitioning piece for kids to get into chapter books, and it's a great way to learn about Art Baltazar. Is it just, for this could be, the beginning of new Art Baltazar fans. There's several different ways, whether it was through Tiny Titans or just walking into Oh Yeah Comics and seeing, Action Cat and Adventure Bug, maybe even through Itty Bitty Hellboy and the Super Pet books. And there's so many different avenues that Art has played with. And the fact that now there are people that are probably going to discover him through this book as well just kind of keeps the magic of his art and storytelling alive. So I thought this was excellent. Very excited. It's kind of definitely one of those books that I'll find myself buying a couple copies here and there and gifting them to the kids of my life and the friends' kids and all that kind of stuff. I think it's a good book to be passing around for everybody to check out. Now, Kirby, you also got this copy because since I was there at All Yeah Comics, I got both of our copies here from Art himself, and he drew a little sketch in there along with his signature. And you could see their original sketches there. You could see that he doesn't just have a stamp. And yep, I'm glad you brought that up. So we also had some sticker sheets. There's a couple missing because I put them on my drawing board already. And then there's a cool bookmark too with his style of characters on there, and an advertisement, which I'll get to later for the next book that a different creator will be working on for Dr. Seuss. Well, let's jump over to Kirby if you got some thoughts on a cat out of water.
Yeah, this was a really fun story. Very well done. Art fits this perfectly. It's like when I heard he was doing it, it was like common sense. It's like it was the perfect match for it. And I also like how he stuck up with the Dogman and all those style novels and giving you the little art in the back, showing you how to draw the characters and stuff like that. So the kids can play around with that. But yeah, this is a quick read, but fun. And it definitely gives you a Dr. Seuss feel, and the characters are awesome. And I hope he gets to do more of these books for the Dr. Seuss line. It's definitely worth it. So.
Yeah, and you had mentioned the how to draw, and Alejandro Rosado, who's a friend of art, he's a Chicago artist, past guest on my drawing show, Cartoonist by Night. And Alejandro also teaches art classes in Chicago. And I just saw a story update where I'm thinking he printed these out, and because he had all the kids drawing and coloring Cat in the Hat characters based off of art style in the classroom and stuff. So it was cool to see that, all of that was used already in, this book just came out at the time of this recording, just a couple days back. So it's cool to see that they're already making use of those pages and stuff. Yeah, we do have some other creative teams that are jumping on to continue it. So we have The Grinch Takes a Vacation. That book is going to be coming out from Kate. Let me see what it says here. Katie Van Horn. Yep. And then there was another one too. I forget. I think it was in one of the free comic book day specials where I saw there was another book that was advertised. I just don't recall if it was in here, but because they did a lot of good advertising in the free comic book day issues to show what's coming out next. But I think there's one for 2025 as well. So, but yeah, I agree with Kirby, and I hope that Art gets to travel back to the world of Dr. Seuss, whether it be more Cat in the Hat or exploring other characters. But from what I remember of him talking about it, I think he had just given them a bunch of sketches of all their kind of characters, and they really liked this Cat in the Hat, and that's what kind of led to this project. So
Definitely made the Cat in the Hat more fun than what I remember. So
yeah. And I definitely like, even though I went into this review just saying like, oh, yeah, I read the books and had the same kind of upbringing as most people probably did with having those in our lives, but it was never something that I've ever reread as an adult, or except for like watching The Grinch, and stuff like that, a staple. But I am definitely excited now to go and dip back into some of those and just kind of relive these stories from a different lens. Um, so the other part of the story, so going to Ayak Comics in beautiful downtown Skokie, not only for Free Comic Book Day, but as well as the official release of the Cat Out of Water hardcover graphic novel here. Art was on hand to sign. Everybody, friends of the Skokie area, myself included, going down and helping out and volunteering and passing out free comics. And I was in charge of restocking some Ayak comics and my very favorite Abraham linkage. I had to make sure there's plenty of Abraham linkage on the shelf. Action Cat plushies. I had my own little job there. But when I went down to the deep reaches of the inventory for Ayak Comics and the back issues, I was down there. I was lost in the stacks as I was just grabbing all these extra comics and piling up and just getting a huge box and ready to fill the shelves. And during my absence in the store, they did have a special guest that showed up in the comic shop while Art was signing. And this is one of the reasons why you should definitely check out the YouTube version of the Crimson Cowl Comic Club podcast by subscribing to it, because I'm going to show off some fun pictures here. While I was missing, very conveniently, is when the Cat in the Hat himself showed up in store, beautiful downtown Skokie. Oh yeah, comics. So yeah, I remember hearing a bunch of ruckus when I was like downstairs, and I heard extra footsteps. I could hear like bouncing off the walls and all this chaos happening. And I just figured, well, everybody's coming in for Free Comic Book Day. But then I would later find out, because by the time I got back, on the ground floor, I just saw like papers up in the air, and like somebody had just like scooted right out of there. And I was looking around. I'm like, hey, what happened? Was Franco here or something? And like, oh no, it was the Cat in the Hat. You just missed him. So, yeah, just one of those, unfortunate coincidences. Well, you'll never see myself and the Cat in the Hat in the same room. That's all I got to say about that. But I will share a couple other photos here. So yeah, it was cool to see that happen, because everybody else at Skokie was taking some photos. So it was cool to actually have the proof there, being like, oh yeah, the Cat in the Hat was up there. So some cool photos of him hanging out with Art there, going around the store right here and just promoting the book and letting people know. Here's another one, the official meet and greet in Skokie, because I think the Cat and Art got to hang out in New York Comic Con, if I'm not mistaken. But the Cat came all the way over to beautiful downtown Skokie for Free Comic Book Day to help celebrate. And then the last photo I'll share here is one hanging out with Joe Crone, the manager at the shop, along with Art holding up the book. So once again, super fun event. It was awesome to see the both at C2E2 and at the shop, for people to find out that this was a thing. It was all new stories. And when I got back upstairs, I got to help promote some of the books and stuff and let people know, yep, all new story, original graphic novel done by Art. He's right over there. He can sign it for you and do some sketches. So I'm hoping that if he gets to do this again, that I have an opportunity to meet the Cat in the Hat myself. But I guess in the meantime, I've got time to brush up on other Dr. Seuss stories to become a super fan, and maybe I'll be worthy of being in the same room next time. So that'll do it then for the review. Highly, highly recommend it for all ages, for Cat in the Hat, Cat Out of Water, available now from this publisher of Random House. There we go. Let's move over to Kirby. What you got?
all right, I got Geiger #1, second time around, I guess you could call it. It's not a volume 2. It's just, yeah, I'm pretty sure they didn't go with volume 2 on it. No, they just dated it 2024 #1. But we're following this up right off the Ghost Machine teaser that had all the different unnamed character teasers inside it. And it starts out 25 years from now, where we see some characters in kind of like a old Western type town feel to it, and they're causing a bunch of problems. And we notice that our Geiger two-headed dog is sitting off to the side and stuff, and then Geiger kind of like steps in to even things out with the people that are picking on the townsfolks. And while he does that, some other characters grab some. Well, this little kid kind of attacks the character, and then he goes and grabs the kid, and then Geiger basically helps get the kid away from there, helps the town out, and then grabs his stuff and goes to leave because he's a glowing, radiated person. The townsfolk, even though he basically saved the town, are mad at him and don't want him around and just start harassing him for being the glowing man. But we see this one character in a night outfit that's just popping his head out and watching all the events happening, and keeps following Geiger around once he leaves the town. And Geiger's sitting there having a fire, and finally he knows the guy is following him, and he sits there and grabs him, asks him what the heck's going on, and we find out that this character is apparently the one that kind of like made the bomb, set off the bomb, I'm guessing, because he's like, I'm responsible for you ending up the way you are. And he's got a way to, in order for Geiger to stay alive, he has to have those glow rods, which he uses for weapons, those nuclear rods. And those are the things that kind of like help light him up and stuff and keep him in his nuclear state. But this character tells him about some stuff that he can help him with along the way, and Geiger keeps pushing him away, not wanting to deal with them. And there's other people following this guy around, so they end up getting in more battles with some militant type characters that keep popping up wherever they stop. And then it goes back to a little bit of past story for Geiger. But if you do want to get in on this run, I suggest going back to the original Geiger, because the original Geiger story will teach you about him getting ready finding out that they're going to drop the bombs and stuff. They have a safe, a bomb shelter, and he gets the wife and kids into the bomb shelter, and he's working his way there. Things happen. Other characters find out about the shelter. Of course, they fight and want to get in their shelter also, and everybody's trying to get into safety. And while it happens, he gets locked out of his shelter and stuff. And you get to see for a long period of time him just basically hanging out outside the shelter while his wife and kids are in there, and he can't do nothing about it. He can't open it up to let him to get in there or anything, because he's irradiated, and of course the atmosphere and all that from the bombs and stuff. So they have to stay in the shelter. But he kind of hangs around there stuff. But you get all the history from that one, where this one's kind of giving us a little teaser story look back at his life before the bomb and stuff. But you get a lot more from the first round than you do in this one. But I could be wrong. They could be adding more each issue. You never know. So you might get all the story you want. But then, as usual, you get your timeline and stuff here that shows you what's all going on with the other storylines. You get some history on Barney, the two-headed wolf dog, in here. I love that character. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. It's way different than the first round, but yet same character, same concept, same storyline. So it'll probably all connect together eventually, but good job. Very happy.
Cool. Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of stuff going on over there from Ghost Machines, building up that world.
Yep.
All right. Let's jump over to Katie. What you got for us?
Okay, I have an oldie but a goodie. It's called The Family Trade, and I'm going to review issues 1 through 5, which is the whole series. If you go way back into our archives, one of the first episodes we recorded, I also reviewed this. And it's been on my mind lately that I'm like, I really liked that. Now that I've been reading comics for a while, I want to check it out again and see what's up. So, The Family Trade is published by Image in the year 2017. It's by Justin Jordan, Nikki Ryan, Morgan Beam, and Rachel Deering. As I said, issues 1 through 5, and then there was a trade published as well. So the idea of the family trade is a super creative concept. It stars our main character, Jessa, who is a young lady who is from a family of assassins. And she lives on a floating man-made island called Thessalia, or more commonly, the Float. And her job is to, well, we find out her day job is to be a teacher, but by night she's an assassin and tries to keep the float free of bad guys. And throughout the series, we'll see how that goes for her. There is incredible lore and world building in this story. And I think the first issue probably does that the best. What else? I love the concept. This reminds me of like Monstress meets the Court of Owls. So as an idea, it's really cool that there is this hidden society of people that is a counterbalance to another hidden society of people. Now that I mention it, I just described the plot of Assassin's Creed. Okay. Well, anyway, if you like Assassin's Creed, you'll probably like this book. But these unseen forces kind of duking it out in this fantasy world. That's kind of pirate-like, kind of steampunk. We got cats that are, can speak. They speak cat, which some people can learn to understand. We have a crooked politician who's he is both out for himself and then representing some other interests. We have an upper class of people that there very much is a class divide within this book, and they are willing to take basically useful idiots to have them do their purposes. So an assassination goes awry. Jessa barely gets away. She gets in trouble for it. They're like, don't do that again. Like, you are clearly not able to take on assassinations of this caliber. And as she is the main character and not to be dissuaded from pursuing her sense of justice, she decides she's going to do it again. And she gets wind that there is a conspiracy to expose the family. And as we learn, the family is actually, in fact, all interrelated somehow. So one big extended family of assassins, there's been a plot to expose them, and that would be very bad. So she's going to try and grab evidence of this plot and present it so she can avert disaster. And then at the end of book 2, we get a heel turn where a good guy becomes a bad guy, and she turns over the evidence thinking he's going to help her, and he was working for the baddies the whole time. So books 3 and 4 show her trying to resolve that, and basically just we have some cool assassin stuff of her like running away, her planning some infiltrations and trying to get this information back, some disguise changes. And then in book 5, we get the resolution where somebody who we previously thought was a bad guy, who was separate than the other one, called the bookkeeper, we have a heel turn and see that he's actually looking into Jessa's best interest as a whole. So it's actually a heel to a face turn, and he then helps her set up the ultimate final plot to trap these bad guys. And we see this crooked politician get taken down, and he gets to go to jail, and he is dealt with by another one of the family. And then the main perpetrator of all of this drama is put into a life sentence in this prison called the Ballast. So they don't do capital punishment here, but they do have a way of keeping people alive so that they can contemplate on the wrongs that they have done. And of course, the ultimate wrong is crossing the family and violating the family trade. And then it kind of ends with hey, good job, young Padawan, and she's overlooking the city, and that's the end of the story. So some notes, things that I think it did well. I still love these awesome covers with the black, red, and white watercolor designs. the art style in this book is a little bit different, and I could see people going either way on it, but I like it. I like that it's watercolors, that we have more flowing lines. It's a little less defined. At times, I think with this book, at times I'm like, maybe not, but overall, I appreciate it, and I like the kind of muted pastel color palette in here. Like I said, I love the concept idea. I think if this had kept going, this could have been a really cool book. Just a floating city of pirates and merchants run by assassins and all kinds of good stuff. Could have been really cool. Some suggestions I have for improvement. So Jessa, her age jumps around in this book, and I don't mean like flashbacks. I mean like they never clearly decided what her age was. So when you start reading, it seems like she's like 20s or 30s. So, and then we find out she has a day job. She works as a teacher 9 to 5 and is grading papers and stuff. And throughout the book, they keep calling her little girl. And I thought they were just doing it to be jerks, right? And no, it turns out then they're like, well, you're just a teenage girl, so you shouldn't be going out on these jobs. So I'm like, wait a second. We have conflicts here. Either she is an adult or she's a teenage girl. And then, yes, it makes sense why you are calling her a little girl and saying you shouldn't be going out on these jobs. So I think a little bit of editing direction would have been helpful there. At the back of every book, the author puts in some kind of making of notes, which I really enjoy. However, one thing I would remind them is there were several instances of them not naming the characters in the book, but then naming them in the making of. And I'm like, that should have been in the main body. I love a good behind the scenes, but there were certain instances and details where I'm like, yeah, you could have cut out like 2 or 3 of the Trump jokes and put that in here, which is going to lead me to my next point. My next point, if you are looking for pure escapism, this book might piss you off because the bad guy in the story, the crooked politician, looks an awful lot like Donald Trump, who was president at the time. There's a lot of jabs that are very much based off of real world things that were people joking about at the time. So if you are looking for something that takes you out of our world and into a fantasy world, I think that's going to break your immersion. I will say I'm not there. There is a lot to criticize Trump for. I'm not trying to defend him in any way. But it did break my immersion. And then it also felt like, okay, the first few times it was funny, by like the 5th time, it was just kind of cringy and weird. And then there were important details that should have been in the book that weren't. I'm like, I get it. It's, easy to take a public figure and then make them into your bad guy. That's pretty common, but it could have been a little more balanced so that we could get important information like, the main character's first name in this book. And then just one more thing that, this is just a personal ick. The author is pitching their Patreon at the back of every book, which is fine. And then they pitch it again 2 pages later in a comic telling me all about their Patreon. And that just kind of gave me the ick because I'm like, once it's fine, but I've already bought your book and now asking me again. And then in the very last letters column, they're like, well, if this had taken off as we had hoped and if more people had bought our book, I'm like, the self-pity kind of put me off. I thought that was in slightly bad taste, but we all got to make a living. You got to do what you got to do. And sometimes that means taking risks. Overall, I still really like this book. I wish there had been more issues. I do think it's worth your time if you can grab the trade. We have The Family Trade from Image by Justin Jordan, Nikki Ryan, Morgan Beam, and Rachel Deering. Check it out, and others from Image Comics.
All right, and that's a perfect segue into talking about, please subscribe to Crimson Cowl Comic Club on iTunes. If you want to watch the video version, please like and subscribe over on YouTube. We don't have a Patreon, but we do have a YouTube. Anyways, I could understand, you had very valid points with criticisms and on that. Okay, yeah. Now time for a very special comic. One that's called the Oh Yeah Comics Super Special. Yes, this is a brand new comic that Art Baltazar revealed at C2E2. It was a secret book that I don't think he even told Franco about. I could be wrong on that, but it was one of those that he had worked on. He had teased lightly in the coming months, And here it is. We're talking about it. Once I saw the pictures of it Friday morning for C2E2 day one, I was there for day two. And this was my number one get that I always go right to the oh yeah tables, and this is the thing I want to get my hands on and see what was all about. And what this is all about is a story of a little public domain, if you will, bringing a very recognizable characters we have here on the front of Steamboat Willie. As of January 1st, 2024, Steamboat Willie had jumped into the public domain. It led to a lot of announcements with when it comes to like the movies, when it comes to like what Winnie the Pooh went through with last year, and just how a lot of that stuff is amping up. There was a lot of fan art. I did some fan art myself, and other fellow cartoonists by night friends did some as well. Everybody kind of jumped in on the game, but this was one that made a lot of sense with Art Baltazar bringing Steamboat Willie, at least for this one issue, into the Oh Yeah Comics universe. And I think this is a really brilliant display of playing with a character that, much like what we were saying with Dr. Seuss, that you know it just makes sense. I think Kirby said common sense, and I think that fits here too. That bringing his style that is still recognizable as art style, but very much in a recognizable, like, oh yeah, this is definitely Steamboat Willie. Talks and moves, jumps around like the character, but it doesn't waste any time by opening up on beautiful downtown Skokie. We see some gray pages, and we see the Steamboat Willie jumping right into this new universe in black, white, and gray fashion. And as we go throughout this issue, I'll only cover about half of the setup here. There's a fun little moment here when there are other characters from other cartoon universes that are holding out their hands and saying good luck, have fun, all that kind of stuff. And if you look closely, you might be able to figure out what some of those hands look like and what characters they represent. It's a fun little Easter egg for you to just kind of recognize some styles. And one of the greatest gags right in the beginning is Steamboat Willie kind of wondering where his boat is. And the portal opens up once again, and the giant steamboat, lands down right there in front of him. And the next thing that I will show, because it starts to show I think, a great setup into the beautiful blend into why it's an Oh Yeah comic special. Before I show that, and the page before it, I think it was very cool structure of seeing his own panel with his hands going onto the steering wheel there for the steamboat, and whatever the official term is. I'm not a nautical guy, so whatever, insert the term there. But the basically pausing to take a look at that moment of seeing that classic style that we know Steamboat Willie with, holding on to the wheel there. And I thought that was just such a nice beat just to like really kick into that. And that jumps right into the colored portions of this book, as we recognize from Oh Yeah Comics. We've got Adventure Cat and Adventure Bug and Brother Bear and all the recognizable characters. We see a couple other ones throughout the issue. But yeah, this is such a great way to show off the blending color palettes, keeping the Steamboat Willie world together, but mixing it in with Oh Yeah Comics and kind of going back and forth. Obviously, making the Oh Yeah Comics characters pop out with those colors and all like the onomatopoeia that are still in colors and stuff too. This is a lot of fun. That's all I'll show off as far as the pages go. Just kind of a setup for purchasing this issue yourself. But yeah, I told Art this myself when I a week later saw him again at the shop, and after having read it on the train ride home from C2E2, brilliant was the word like that I kept describing it as. Like it felt natural. It was a lot of fun. There's a lot of eye winking going on from just be like, oh, this reference and that reference, and there's even something at the very end for something really funny to kind of play more with the public domain stuff as like a nice last page gag and stuff. But yeah, it's once again, you're going to be hard to find. It's going to be hard to find a review when I'm talking about Art's books and just being like, oh, this one sucked. Like he just brings so much fun and energy. It's a great palate cleanser to to your reading and stuff like that. And it's always good to have these on hand. And this was one that was well worth the cover price to celebrate the Oh Yeah Comics Super Special. Lives up to the name Super. And yeah, it was a fun little experiment, and I'm curious to see if anything more will happen from this. But it could definitely, exist as its standalone story as well. Picked up a Kirby for Copy. I picked up a copy for Kirby. That means it's my time to hand it over to you talking when I trip over my words. What are your thoughts on the Oh Yeah Comics Super Special?
This was wonderful again, of course. Art can't go wrong. I don't know. I'm starting to wonder that maybe his kids are playing with too much water because all his books have some type of water issue in them this month. And it's like, I haven't heard about the drawing room being flooded out yet, but
yeah, I'm wondering if the water bill at the Baltazar homestead has been very high lately. So it's good insight there.
yeah, this was a wonderful representation of how he did it and brought the character into his world and stuff. And like you said, with the hands of other characters popping out and stuff, it's a couple that I was curious about. Well, actually, I think I figured out one of them, but the top three I knew right off the bat, but the bottom two I had to do some thinking. The one thing I don't know if it will happen in the future or what, it's like when I seen his hat, I thought for sure that was a mouth. And I was kind of expecting the hat to be, when it's bouncing around, maybe do some talking or something like that. So I was waiting for that. But yeah, he did an awesome job bringing this character into his own feel with the public domain thing, and then also teasing other public domain style characters that we'll see in the future or already know now or whatever. And yeah, it fits right in with all his characters. So I'm looking forward to what else he does. I think Franco may have known because in one of the older, it was either one of the famous cartoonist talks or one of the Oh Yeah podcast things and stuff. When they did get into a public domain thing, he did mention that he was playing with stuff in the past and had some ideas laid out. So yeah, but yeah, he did an awesome job with this. This was a lot of fun. I did not expect to like it as much as I did because I was never a huge Mickey fan, other than going to Disneyland and stuff like that, or Disney World. But yeah, it was definitely a blast.
Now, it's a rule in my household to always have a Steamboat Willie figure near you. So I was looking at that hat, and you can't see it on the video just because the light doesn't come in on it. But yeah, it has that same kind of,
Okay.
has that same whatever the heck that is, but a little flap or a badge or whatever it is. But so, anyways, now I can put this from the regular spot that I've always had this in and put it on the Oh Yeah shelf that I have with all their characters and stuff because now it belongs in that universe. So good. You've got another book to talk about?
Yep, we got Hack Slash Kill Your Idols one shot. This was a lot of fun. We have so many characters in here that people may or may not know. Of course, it's done by Tim Seeley and Stefano Caselli. Starts out with our Hack Slash characters dealing with a serial killer, and he's going around stabbing people, chopping up the body parts and stuff, and they keep taking him down. He keeps coming back to life. So eventually Vlad just basically dismembers him, takes his head, throws his body parts out in the ocean, and separates the head from everything else so the character can't come back. And then they have to go check on someone, and where they go, they happen to come across Super Patriot, and they get into a big battle with him because they instantly think he's bad. There's some issues going on, and after the fight goes on for a while, we eventually find that he is on their same plane of thought and wanting to take out any slashers and help out people, but there's something going on. And Super Patriot at this stage is old, so it's nice that he actually aged and we're not dealing with the same age for the last 40 years. But they're like, well, we can't really get nothing. You're no help to us because you're too old to work with us. But he is mostly mechanical and stuff, so they end up he ends up hooking up with them, and they go off trying to figure out what's going on. And they come across all these interesting characters that are just hanging, hooked up to stuff. Characters that some people may know, Blood Strike, Deadlock, Shogun, Agent Tag, Foreplay, Shadowhawks in here. There's so many different characters, but we find out that someone is taking, I don't know if some of these characters actually did die in battle in the past and they got a hold of their bodies, but these characters that we're seeing are basically zombified characters. They're basically regenerated, that some scientist is putting out there and causing all these people to get killed. And that's why Hack and Slash, Casey and Vlad are on the case trying to figure this out. And there's Shadowhawk there getting his butt whooped by Casey. And basically she's having to work with other superheroes, but she's not really fond of it. But she has no choice because, I mean, these battle scenes, and there are so many characters that just keep popping up and stuff. And they don't have enough knowledge or enough common sense to know how to use the original characters' powers and stuff. So they're basically hulked up, zombified characters without being able to physically use all their superpowers. So they don't really know how to make them come to be and how to use the different things other than the weapons that the characters have on their beings, like the claws and stuff like that. So we're not seeing no mystical effects, no special abilities or anything like that done by those characters. So that's how they figure out that they're not the actual characters. And then they go off on everybody and just starts taking everybody down. I don't know who this Sybil the Sun Sorceress is. I've never seen her before, but she's a big character in this, helping them out. So I'm guessing we'll see something more of her in the future lines with Casey and Vlad. But yeah, this was a lot of fun. Basically standard Casey Vlad story, just dealing with the hacks, with the psychotic murderous serial killers, and being joined up with tons of different other characters, and then watching all these specialized characters get their butts whooped by them. But they do a little flashback to Casey in the early days, how everything got started and everything too. So if you don't really know much about the characters, you could get away with just checking out this one shot and get yourself a teaser of Casey and Vlad, and then be bummed that you never read anything else about them. But yeah, this was a lot of fun. It's a nice thick one too, so it's definitely worth it. A good read. So, but yeah, in the back it just says, when slashers stalk the heroes of the Image universe, they turn to Casey Hack, and she hates it. But she does not like teaming up with anybody, so other than Vlad, because he's nice and silent.
Good. Well, that is going to wrap up that segment of the weekly reviews, but we do have another one, and that is the news.
And now, the news.
Welcome to part 1 of 2 of our previews preview. We're going to be diving into the Marvel and the DC Comics May catalogs for products coming out in July 2024 and beyond. We can't cover all of them, but we're just going to cover the ones that we're excited about. But we highly recommend you to check out your local comic book shop, ask for the preview catalogs, go to your preferred online retailer, and get those previews and fill them out. So we'll give you a couple suggestions. I'm kicking it off with NYX, or Nick's number 1. This isn't a book about X-Men. This is a book about mutants living past the end of their world and into a new beginning. This is Ms. Marvel embracing her mutant life in the neon streets of Lower East Side. This is Anil trying to keep his head above water. This is Wolverine in the shadows of Bushwick, protecting her own. This is Prodigy writing history as it happens, and Sophie Cuckoo finding her own way. The news reports are bleak. The streets feel dangerous. There's something lurking underground, evil coming from every direction, but they're determined to make it. This is mutant community. This is mutant pride. This is Nyx. I wasn't sure if it was NYX or Nyx, but based on the written synopsis there, it feels like Nyx is the appropriate way to go about it. Yeah, I'm excited. You know, there's a lot of new X-Men that starts this coming summer, but with Kamala still being part of the mutant thing, which was from last summer, and it's carrying forward. Looks like she's kind of leading this crew here front and center. So I always go wherever Kamala Khan goes, and so I'll be checking out this. If I'm not mistaken, I think Nyx. I think that's where Laura first showed up as like X-23. I think she first showed up in like that mini series or something. So, and she's part of this here, you know, as Wolverine in this one. So Laura Kinney, I was trying to think of the last name. So yeah, bringing back this title, I guess, for this run. Not sure how many issues, but I'll be definitely checking it out for as long as it goes because Kamala Khan is part of the team. Kirby, anything for Marvel?
Before I say it, yeah, I was confused by this because I haven't decided if I want to pull the trigger on it yet or not because I love X-23 and all those runs, and I was just thinking Nyx was her name at one point, and then I was confused why you had all these characters underneath the name of Nyx, but then also the way they put it here, it's like New York X-Men.
Yeah, I think it was always an acronym of something, but I don't know for sure. But yeah, that does make sense too. You know, just the way that is. You know, the X is
being bigger.
Logo.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll have to ask my buddy Sean because he has all the answers related to mutants. So
get him on the show.
He was on once before.
All right,
you should come back. It was cool.
I'm gonna check out at least the first probably 3 issues of X-Force. Number 1, a new path forged. The world is fractured. Forge uses his powers of invention to devise the only fix, an all-new, all-different X-Force. Forge leads a custom-made, hand-picked team of mutants. Rachel Summers, Betsy Braddock, Sage, Surge, and introducing Tank. In off-the-books missions so dire, so integral to the fate of the Marvel Universe, there's no time to stop for permission. As Forge detects increasing threats across the planet, he will recruit a specialist for each target. First up, that regenerating degenerate Deadpool. Be here for an X-Force like you've never seen them before. Stick around to see who joins, who lives, who dies, and uncover the mystery of Forge's discovery. I'm curious if they're just going to throw a new big name in each issue or every couple of issues or what, but starting out with Deadpool, of course, and he's all I think of with X-Force. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how these other characters are. I don't think I've read anything with any of them by the way they look. I don't recognize any of them. So,
yeah, if anything, it's a good time this summer to dive into the X-Men as they're all kind of starting new things and new directions and stuff. So, good time to kind of revisit the characters and see what's up. And, anything from Marvel, Katie?
Sure. So I have another Star Wars epic collection per usual. We have The Rebellion, Volume 8. So we're getting close to the end of all the Dark Force stuff. It's by Greg Pak, Adam Gorham, and Salvador Larroca. I'm most excited for seeing Shadows of the Empire adopted into comics, and then one that is really, really hard to find, Sergio Aragone's Stomps Star Wars. I have been looking for 7 years and it's never once popped up for me in the wild, so I'm really excited to grab it in this epic collection along with other fun from a galaxy far, far away. This will be in stores on September 4th, so a little bit of an advance submitted, and it's going to be $45. Check it out and pre-order now.
Cool. Jim, anything from Marvel? All right, we're gonna jump over to this one, and you know, I don't decide the club picks. We decide the club picks. But if I were to recommend something that might fit into our little show here, we have What if Donald Duck became Wolverine? So here we go. This is in the most unexpected mashup of our time, I'd agree. We travel to the near future where chaos rules as Pete Skull has turned Duckburg into a superhero-less wasteland. Only old Duck Donald can turn the tide, but he's given up his battling days and prefers naps and grandma's apple pie over fighting villains. But when Mickey Hawkeye, nice, comes knocking at the door with Goofy Hulk at his side, Wolverine Donald has to make a choice. Will a trip down memory lane change his mind to save the world, or will the lure of the backyard hammock and a long nap keep him from popping his claws one last time? Featuring some of Donald Wolverine's greatest moments. This is a 32-page one shot for $5. I didn't read the synopsis beforehand, but I was now excited to see that it's kind of like an Old Man Logan sort of parody with all those extra characters and road tripping with Hawkeye and stuff. So I am 100% on board for this. So I'm just throwing that out there, a one shot coming this July. What if Donald Duck became Wolverine?
Yes, that was my last pick, so I will definitely be getting that one.
Got two for that one. Just throwing it out there. We have a hand. Jim, you have a question? Oh, Jim says yes as well. So that means I go to my phone and I take a picture of this so I remember to tell the club as a whole that we are going to be talking about that one this coming July, probably. I don't think it's an advanced one. So yeah, Marvel and Disney. What if Donald Duck became the Wolverine? Became Wolverine. Sorry for taking your last one because I've got a couple more. So
No problem.
all right.
No, you're good.
So let me.
I have one more.
Okay, you got one more yet? So
Yep.
let's jump over to you.
You betcha. So I'm also on board for Donald Duck Wolverine. And then this last one is a maybe for me, but it did catch my eye. It's Aliens versus Avengers #1. Creative team is Jonathan Hickman and Isad Ribic. And I think that could be a really cool mashup. I've never read any of the Alien comics, and it's been a while since I've read Avengers, but just the idea of cosmic entities and superpowered beings beating each other up sounds like a super fun comic book. That'll be available on July 24th, and it's going to be $8. Check it out if you dare. And yes, also in for Donald Duck and Wolverine. And that's my last pick from Marvel.
Excellent. Yeah, I wasn't originally going to get the Alien one, but if I hear any news going up to it that Silver Surfer is going to be involved, just dealing with space and everything, then
Yeah.
be jumping in on that one as well. But
Yeah.
looking at Werewolf by Night Blood Hunt #1, this is a one shot. As the Blood Hunt wreaks untold havoc across the Marvel Universe, one of those affected is the most unexpected ways is the Werewolf by Night. Imbued with new abilities, a new look, and dangerous new direction, this Werewolf by Night is unlike any you have ever seen before. Starring Jake Gomez, this is the one tie-in to no Blood Hunt reading order is complete without. So yeah, I'm getting the main Blood Hunt, and I'm just getting whatever characters that I normally get if they have any tie-ins and stuff. But I'll also be checking out this one shot for Werewolf by Night Blood Hunt. So that is that one, and I'm going to flip over to my next one here. We have a new Annihilation that's happening, but in the year 2099. Now, I wasn't one that ever dabbled in 2099 stuff. I probably read a couple things here and there, but I didn't read it religiously. But the Annihilation War, the huge event, I've got the giant omnibus that's like 7,000 pages and it'll crush your kneecaps. But that is, they're starting this off. I don't know if it's going to be a weekly thing because they do solicit one, two, three, four, five, a 5-issue miniseries. And as I was flipping through, because of the 2099, I'm like, all right, I can probably skip it until I saw the cover of issue #4 and I see a Silver Surfer looking character over there. So I'm going to go through and read the synopsis proper and probably check it out. But with me not being as into the Marvel and DC universes that I have been in the previous years, something like this is probably going to be a good read where you're just getting all new stuff in a different, a whole different year and everything. So, and then maybe when we are all still doing this podcast in 2099, we'll come back and do preview of that. So jumping over to Ms. Marvel Annual #1. Aman Vellani, who plays Ms. Marvel Kamala Khan in the MCU, has written one arc that came out last year for Ms. Marvel in the comic books, is co-written, and then this year we are in the middle of a new one, and it's cool to see her on board for the annual as well. And this is part of the new Infinity Watch that's happening. It says it's part 4. I'm into a lot of the Infinity stories. I don't remember where I'm at with pre-ordering. This one says part 4, so either I missed them or I'll pick them up as they come out. But I'll definitely be checking that one out for a Ms. Marvel annual tying into the Infinity Watch. Giant Size Silver Surfer #1. Terrax, who I love that character, Terrax the Tamer is determined to escape the Silver Surfer's shadow for once and for all. And to do so, he created a deadly trap that the Surfer cannot escape. But in the midst of Terrax's brutal campaign to destroy the Surfer's reputation, can the Surfer find a way to save Terrax himself? So yeah, Terrax, I always loved the design of that character in the 90s Silver Surfer comics and seeing that guy out there. And I think I recently got an action figure of him. I think he came with that giant Galactus. But yeah, so that's a Silver Surfer book. I'm definitely getting that. Flipping to the next tab towards the end here. Don't think I missed any in between. What If Into the Multiverse Omnibus Volume 2. I have the other 2 that they've done because they had, actually, this might be the 4th one total because I think they did, this is the 2nd one for the multiverse, and I think they did 2 just normal What If ones. But Giant Omnibus is collecting all these What If ones, and I see that there's a pre-order cover for the Galactus. I think it's What If the Avengers Fought Galactus, if I remember correctly. But they have a Jim Valentino cover on there as a second option, so I'm definitely going to be ordering that one. But yeah, I always like the What If stories, and I like that they're continuing on with the giant omnibuses, so I can collect them all. Probably minus an issue or two because I think that the Shang-Chi stuff and all the stuff related to that was not part of the reprint for reasons. Um, yeah, and I think that does it for the Marvel catalog there. We've been talking about in the past couple months that we've been haven't had as many of the Marvel and DC picks. I know myself and Kirby kind of relate to that, and I think Marvel must have been watching and listening to our podcast because now I had more than ever because now they're putting Surfer over here, Kamala on this cover, Surfer on that cover, and variant cover with Galactus and Surfer on the What If. And so yeah, I shouldn't publicly say that because now I'm gonna spend some more money on Marvel again. But we can't cover it all, so definitely recommend checking out that catalog. Let's go to the distinguished competition with DC Comics, kicking off with Kirby. Anything from DC you want to talk about?
Yeah, this is kind of a surprise for me because I'm not a huge fan of them. But yeah, Joker, the world. Gotham's Clown Prince of Crime goes global in this worldwide anthology, Joker the World. This 184-page book will feature Joker stories by creative teams from 13 different countries, showcasing how the Joker has truly inspired chaos on a global scale. The original Joker project launches worldwide on September 17, 2024, and the complete anthology will be localized to the following international territories: Spain, Germany, Italy, Brazil, Mexico, Czech Republic, Turkey, Japan, Korea, North America, Argentina, Cameroon, and Poland. What does the Joker do when on holiday in Spain? How has he inspired others to follow in his footsteps, creating Joker duplicates in Germany and Turkey? How does a Joker in Cameroon find inspiration? Only the top writers and artists from each country can tell these stories about the world's best known villain, who happens to have a movie coming out in October.
Okay.
So yeah, I like the collaboration ones, so I figured I'd check that.
Cool.
All the different creators.
I jump over to Katie. Anything from DC for you? Your audio, I think, needs to be turned on.
Skip me a second. I can't get my catalog list back, so I'll be in next round.
Sounds good. Let's jump over to Jim. Anything from DC?
I have not seen the catalog, but that Joker's The World sounds interesting, and I will look into getting that.
Cool, cool. Yeah, a cool little remote. I think when you turn your audio or something, you're now
Yeah.
we're like a yeah. Did you have like a remote or something there?
Yep.
Watch out, he's gonna. he holds the power. He holds more power than I thought he did in the show. So I'll keep an eye out for that. Jumping over to mine, I had one from the catalog. I didn't have the physical with me, so I just got to go to my screen cap here. Batman 66 Omnibus hardcover. This is the 2024 edition, meaning that it's just reprinting. I don't think there's anything new, but this is from the creative team of Jeff Parker and Various, with art by Jonathan Case, and then Michael and Laura Allred, who do the cover art, which I would assume are going to be the issue breaks in there. But I know Mike and Laura and Lee Allred all did the final issue, which I think was like issue 30 or 31 of that series, where they actually did the interiors. I have, some of those issues. Definitely a lot of the early run of it. So I'll be deciding if I want to dive into the big one here. But tune in or read on for the continuing adventures of America's fun-loving, action-packed pop culture icons from the classic Batman TV series, along with the returning regular cast of rogues playing Batman, Robin, Batgirl, and Commissioner Gordon, the Joker, the Riddler, Penguin, Catwoman, Mr. Freeze, Egghead, and Olga, Queen of the something, I don't know what that word is. Gotham City must contend with new appearances from the rest of Batman's colorful villains: Harley Quinn, Scarecrow, Bane, Poison Ivy, and Two-Face, none of whom have graced the Bat TV. So yeah, from the issues I remember reading, really captured the vibe of the Adam West, Bill Dozier TV show from 1966, continuing on the adventures and the art style, even beyond, going beyond the all red covers and stuff. Definitely some good stuff, and I'll have to do some math to see if I'm going to purchase this. Collect Batman 66 1 through 30 and Batman 66 The Lost Episode #1. I don't remember what that one was, and so I don't know if maybe that's new or if it was really lost on me and I didn't get it the first time. So Batman 66 Omnibus 2024 edition. Kirby?
All right, I don't think I ever heard of this before, but I think I'm gonna check it out. We got WE3, the 20th anniversary deluxe edition. It's got all our little critters on it. Celebrate the 20th anniversary of one of comics' masterpieces. From the legendary duo of Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely comes the journey of three house pets weaponized for lethal combat by the government, on the run and searching for home, collecting the complete and expanded series with an extensive behind-the-scenes section featuring a brand new direct-to-market variant cover by Frank Quitely. And we basically got Cosmo, Chewie, and is that Black Hops?
Well, those would be for DC, though, so those are...
Yeah, that's why, because he's not a DC character, but I don't know what bunny rabbit with a black eye, a white rabbit with a black eye is in the DC universe. I'm not sure. So, but yeah.
If I were to guess, I'm just guessing they're all new characters, unless they do take, because it doesn't look like Crypto at all. So yeah, it might just be all new characters.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna check it out.
I looked at my collection because that sounded familiar, and I do own it. I don't know if it's just in the long pile of for me to read yet, because I don't recall reading it, but I remember seeing that team and just hearing good things about it. So I'll have to take a look at my stack. But according to my file,
yeah, refresh that stack once in a while and move it up.
I know, right? Just I'll find things that were expired cheese and crackers that are probably buried on the bottom of there too. So
I do the same thing. I got like 10 stacks going.
Yeah.
it is cool though when you do that, when you just take a look at the bottom, being like, oh yeah, put that at the top. And
yeah, I really wanted to read that 3 years ago.
every now and then I'll do that where I'll shuffle things and I'll do kind of a quick thing based on my reaction, being like, okay, this one goes into the stack that goes next to the chair right away, so it doesn't get lost. So sometimes there's those things being like, all right, now I'm in the mood for this, whereas a couple of years ago it just got shuffled in. Katie, are you ready with a selection?
Yes. So I have Dark Knights of Steel All Winter, #1. This looks like it's part of their new Elseworlds line they're doing. It's going to be about Deathstroke. And I am interested in it because it's got kind of a Skyrim, swords and sorcery, Norse mythology vibe to it, and I'm really liking this art, and all of those things sound like something that I'm interested in. I don't know a ton about Deathstroke other than that he is an assassin, and then they kind of based Deadpool off him as a joke, and then it became its own thing. But I love the preview pages of this, and I think that cover looks really cool. Of Dark Knights of Steel All Winter #1. It's on sale on July 17th for $4.99.
Cool. And just so I can avoid, Jim using his remote to turn, the controls on this, do you have anything else? Did you do any research, or is that it for DC?
I haven't, but yeah, just look for Katie, the Dark Knights of Steel is an excellent book. Yeah.
Oh, cool. I look forward to trying it out. Thank you.
Cool. I didn't have any other DC picks, so we can go back.
Yeah.
Kirby, you're good. Katie, anything else to take us home?
Sure. There was so the long-running Looney Tunes series is doing an Olympics issue, and I thought that looked kind of cute. Nothing too deep there to talk about. It is going to be issue 279. I'm not a regular Looney Tunes reader, but all the stuff that I have read from them has been really fun and exactly what you would expect. Looney Tunes 279 at 7/10/24, and it is $2.99. And that's all, folks.
Excellently done. Yeah, I've been adding those on my last couple orders because I just realized, why aren't I, especially at that price, to get some
Yeah.
Looney Tunes in there. All right. Well, that is going to do it. Once again, we could barely scratch the surface on the catalog, so always recommend go to your local comic book shop, ask them for the previous catalogs, flip through them, see what interests you, let them know what you want. That way, the shop knows what to order. That way, the publishers know, and the writers and the creators, and everybody knows that you want their stuff, and that could be waiting for you at your comic shop or preferred online retailer if you don't have one near you. So, that is going to do it for the show. Let's jump into some quick plugs. CrimsonCowl.com. Go there for info and original webcomics. Crimson Cowl Comic Club on iTunes. Subscribe, rate, and review for the audio version. If you want to see some of the stuff that we've been talking about, because we definitely had some show and tell, especially with the Cat in the Hat appearances at Oh Yeah Comics and Skokie, you can only see those when you go to the YouTube version of Crimson Cowl Comic Club. Or go on my artist accounts because I posted on there too. But definitely check out on YouTube there so you can see those in relation to our discussion. We also have the spin-off podcast here. Kirby has Under the Cowl of MS, and we had just celebrated episode 300 of our show here, and Kirby has recently got over the 100 subscriber mark over on YouTube, so we're giving the round of applause over there. Definitely getting some extra traction. If you want to let the people know what's going on for Under the Cowl of the MS, what's coming up.
Yeah, if you're not signed up, subscribed, you're missing out, because there was 2 contests so far. I gave away a comic book, and then a new friend was giving away a drawing or a special cover or an eBay gift card to 2 different people. I threw in 2 Gemini boxes with 5 free comics in each one, and our friend Kevin Wolf decided to throw in something also to help me get extra subscribers. So if you missed out on that, you better get your butt subscribed, because there's going to be more freebies in the future. I got lucky and picked up all the free Comic Book Day books this year pretty quickly, so that was no problem. And I've got 3 episodes. By the time you see this, I should have the 4th episode, which will hopefully be the final one of the reviews of those comics. Might have to go a 5th. That final stack's looking a little thick, but we'll see what happens. Then we got some more fun unpackings and stuff, so check those out. Lots more stuff to come.
Excellent. So yeah, subscribe to Under the Cowl of MS wherever you get your podcasts and your Instagrams and your Facebooks and your YouTubes for all of that content. And especially, we can only cover so much in our weekly reviews here. So Kirby's episodes are always good to get a bunch of extra reviews and insight on those books. My plugs here: I have artist accounts, Anthony Laatsch, LAATSCH. over on Instagram and Facebook. So give a follow if you want to see some art over there. I have some original art on sale at the Gift Nook in Kewaskum, Wisconsin. I have some original gnome sketch cards that were drawn specifically for them. And then at beautiful downtown Skokie, Oh Yeah Comics, I put a page of original sketch cards in their local creator binder that they have for original art and zines and comics and such. And I decided to give them an entire page of my cartoon Creature from the Black Lagoon. You can see all those on my artist art accounts, where I just did the Creature from the Black Lagoon in a bunch of recognizable cartoon styles, whether it's Flintstones, Simpsons, Bob's Burgers, Ren and Stimpy, Beavis and Butthead. I did one for the Grinch. Had a couple other ones in there too. So all of those cards, original sketch cards, available only at Oh Yeah Comics in beautiful downtown Skokie. So that is a little plug for all of that stuff. And then we have Cartoonist by Night over on YouTube. We're just celebrated our 1 year anniversary and episode at the time of this recording. I have to finish up editing. Not sure when these will come out. So just subscribe to Cartoonist by Night over on YouTube. We have some exciting guests that have given us a yes that I did some table scouting at C2E2 and introduced the show to some people, and excited for that. But other than that, we have, I think, 22 or 23 episodes up there with some guests as well, and us hanging out for for a limited time only. Check out those episodes. No, they're always going to be on YouTube. I tried selling it in a way of being like, rush, go there now. But no, they'll be up there. As long as YouTube exists, it'll be up there. And then I want to give a shout out to the Santos Sisters issue number 6. I believe this officially comes out at the end of May. But if you're at C2E2 or any local conventions that these creators, Greg and Fake and the rest were at, as well as Oh Yeah Comics and Skokie, they were there. They were selling this early. And the reason why I want to give this an extra shout out is because we have some awesome ads in here. Our first Crimson Cowl Comic Club ad, which debuted.
Yay!
You all saw it on our page. It's a small ad down there, not in color there, but all of our faces that are here today are in this ad right there. I drew all of us in a little cartoony avatar style there, so we could all be represented with the Crimson Cowl Comic Club. And then going over to the next page here, Kirby has an Under the Call of MS one with a Jughead drawing there to advertise that. So
All
second
right.
time they've been advertised in there. First time for Crimson. We had a cartoonist one. So yeah, it's always cool to take that opportunity to jump into the classified ads thanks to the creative folks over at the Santos Sisters. Okay, that is going to do it. Thank you for checking out this show. We're breaking off a new hundo here with the Crimson Cowl Comic Club with issue number 301. That's going to do it. But this whole time, I have not been a cat in a hat.
I've been doing the backstroke in a nuclear pool of body parts.
I've been learning how to speak, Cat.
Well, ain't that the prettiest thing you ever did see?
To be continued.